Welcome, everybody. It's 6 o'clock, and I know that because I can hear the beautiful sound of the bells in Breslin Tower. And I just miss seeing all of you so much. And we're just so excited to kick off this 55 years of Black Alumni celebration tonight. And my name is Susan Askew. I'm class of 86, and I am Associate Vice President for Alumni and Parent Programs. And we just are looking forward to celebrating this important milestone all month long. We've had a great committee working towards all of these things that the committee members have had to be very flexible and adapt to all the changes because, as you probably know, the actual anniversary is in the year 2020. And but we weren't able to be together, so we moved it to Black History Month, thinking that's a great plan B. And then we were still not allowed to be together. So we've got a great option for this whole month to celebrate with different events every week. And we promise we're going to celebrate together when we can. With a big party. But so tonight, I'm just going to turn it over to our host, Fred Rhodes. He's class of 08. He's going to moderate the panel tonight. And we have in the audience, I guess, we have students and alumni and faculty and staff members, and it looks like a few community members. So people are interested to hear from you all. And there are so many people we could have picked on the panel, and I think going forward we may continue to do this even after the month of February because we want to showcase you all. And but tonight's panel all kind of had unique maybe accomplishments while they were at Swanny, and I'm going to let Fred talk about that. But he is class of 08. He is the director of human resources for Information Network International in Houston, Texas. And as a student, he was an English major, and he played. It says you were on the track and field team. Football, he won the.
Showed up to a couple of meets. I didn't go to all of them.
Yeah, and he received the Flynn Intramural Athlete Award, and he was a conference academic honor roll. Awesome. He was a member of our Student Alumni Leadership Council. He went on an outreach trip to Miami. He was a member of Gamma Sigma Phi. And as an alum, he is a member of our Alumni Executive Board. He serves as an Alumni Arcadian, supporting our admissions office, and also has been a Beyond the Gates volunteer, supporting our Career Services office. So he has been great to work with on both the alumni board and on our planning committee for this event. And so, Fred, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Susan. You make me sound a whole lot better than I actually am in real life. But I appreciate it nonetheless. So everybody, welcome to the kickoff event of the 55 years of Black Alumni Celebration. I've been messing up that whole name this entire week, honestly. So thank you all for being here, students, panelists, alumni, faculty, administration, and people who may have clicked the wrong link. This is a career panel, so if you did click the wrong link, just kick it, stay with us for a little while. It's gonna be better than whatever else you had planned tonight. I'm your moderator, as Susan stated. I'm class of 2008, and with me I have some of our distinguished, accomplished, beautiful Black alumni who are going to share the world's wisdom with you tonight. Now, this is a larger than usual panel, but what you're going to get tonight is a lot of variety. You're going to get a lot of perspective, a lot of different insights, and a lot of value is going to come from this group. And like Susan said, we have a lot of folks who are out in the world doing some amazing things. But we're just so glad that this group decided to accept our invitation and decide to be here to share with you tonight. So the format of this is I'm going to ask this group some questions where they're going to introduce themselves, first of all, and you're going to get to know them a little bit better. And then I'm going to ask them some questions. And at the end of of the panel discussion. I'm going to open the floor for everybody out there in the audience that I cannot see to ask their own questions. So we'll get it kicked off. And after these introductions, we'll get started. Miss Amber, we will start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Super. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber. My last name is Camille. It's French. My husband's French. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. I work for AT&T as a sales compensation manager.
Thank you, Amber. And I will pass it to Dr. Roque.
Hi, so I'm Sharita Roque. I graduated in 2007. I'm currently in Baltimore. I am in the first year of a 2-year fellowship in complex family planning at Johns Hopkins University.
Thank you, ma'am. And next is Miss Rosalyn.
Hey everybody, my name is Rosalyn Rayborn. I am currently in Dallas, Texas. I am class of 2004. I am currently creative director at Brand Corey Marketing.
Cool, thank you, Rosalyn. And next is Miss Britney.
Hey everyone, my name is Britney Macon. I am a graduate of the class of 2014. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I work for a firm called Maynard Cooper and Gale as a commercial real estate attorney.
Thank you, Brittany. And next is Miss Lenore.
Hey y'all, I'm Lenore Adediran. I'm class of 2007. I live in New York and I am a screenwriter and digital content creator.
Thank you, Lenore. And next is Mr. DeAndre.
Hi guys, DeAndre, class of 2013, CEO of the Bloomfield Language Institute, also the founder, and I also work as a French teacher.
Appreciate you, DeAndre. And next is Mr. Johnson.
Hi everyone, I'm David Johnson, class of 2019. I think I'm the youngest one on this panel. I'm currently living in Brownsville, Tennessee, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Chicago.
Appreciate you, David. Next is Mr. Tremaine Polk.
Good evening, Tremaine Polk. So I'm class of 2002. So I currently live in Pensacola, Florida, and I am a consumer district manager for Verizon Wireless.
Thank you, Tremaine. Next is Mr. Kevin Jones.
Good evening, everyone. I am Kevin Jones. I guess I would be the oldest member of the panel, class of 87, and that is 19, not 18. I am a field reimbursement manager for Stemline Therapeutics, a biotech oncology company, currently living in Pelham, Alabama.
Thank you, Kevin. And Dr. Jamel, you are next.
Hey, y'all, I'm Jamel Clark. I am the class of, from the class of 2003. I'm a pediatrician in Louisville, Kentucky. Good to see everybody.
Appreciate you. Miss Jessica.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jessica Hardy, and I currently live in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm class of 2006, and I currently serve as Director of College Guidance at St. George's Independent School.
Thank you, Jessica. And Dr. Felicia.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Felicia Jenkins. I am class of 98. Yes, and I am from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I'm currently in Chattanooga. I am an outreach specialist at Chattanooga State Community College, and I'm also a diversity consultant.
Right. And rounding this out is Mr. Kent.
Hey guys, my name is Kent Underwood. I'm a class of 90. They keep putting me in 96, but I actually comped in 95. But I had a couple of classes in the fall because I was still eligible to play ball, so I came back. So I'm claiming 95. They need to move this off 96. But anyway, I'm a teacher, coach, and administrator in Jefferson County Schools in Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you, panelists. I appreciate you introducing yourselves to our audience. And we will get started with the questions. First off, we're going to We're going to lead off with letting everybody know a little bit about your background and how you got here, and here being how you found Swanee, and a little bit about your Swanee experience. So we'll go in the same order we started with the introductions in. Ms. Amber, tell us a little bit about some highlights from your Swanee experience.
Okay, I first came to Swanee as a part of the summer bridge program in math and science. And I did that the summer before my senior year of high school. So I got to spend 4 weeks on campus with Sewanee professors. I lived in Elliott, which not a lot of girls can say they did. And then my story is really one of just, I kept coming back. You know, I came back to the fall weekend and I actually stayed with Sharita and Lenore. And, you know, they were just so wonderful. And then I came back for a scholarship weekend in the winter. And then I was invited back again for a spring weekend. So I just kept coming back, and Swanee loved me and I loved Swanee. And because of that scholarship weekend, I was grateful and thankful to receive the Chancellor Scholarship, which was a huge part in making Swanee possible. So not just us loving each other, but making it financially possible. And so that is how I got to come back to Swanee and stay for the 4 years.
Thank you, Ms. Amber. And Dr. Roque, can you share with us a little bit about your Swanee experience?
Yeah, so I found Swanee because I took my high school class took a college tour, stopping at different colleges all the way down to Atlanta. And when we got to Swanee, they drove us straight out to the cross, and then I was already sold then and there. And then also, I knew I was interested in French, but Swanee had a French studies major, and a lot of places only had just French lit. And so that was also really appealing to me. And when I came for the scholarship weekend too, they sat me next to Monsieur Poe, and then we talked the whole night. And yeah, and that was that.
Appreciate you. I'm gonna pass the mic to Ms. Rosalyn.
All right, so I found Swanee completely randomly. I was at prep school. I went to Choate for a summer program, and I would say the best recruiter ever from Swanee, Becca Peak, was at Choate recruiting, and we both fell in love immediately. I was like, I'm from Tennessee, and she's like, I'm from Tennessee. You need to come to my school. And I was like, no. I was like, I want to go far, far away, somewhere crazy. And she was like, no, you need to be at Swanee. And I met her and just fell in love, and she worked me, just kept telling me that I would love it. And she won. She and my mom conspired, and it was the best decision I ever made. I'm so thankful every day that Becca Peak saw something in me to just convince me to come to Swanee. It was the best college experience for me. So that's how I ended up there.
That's what's up. Miss Britney Macon.
Yeah, so I found Swanee kind of through a couple different people, through some alumni connections, and my cousin was a student there. And then I'm gonna have to come against you, Rosalyn, because I'm gonna say I had the best recruiter ever, because it was Miss Jessica Hardy. And yeah, but she was great and really, helped out during the process. I went to visit also during scholarship weekend, and it was snowing. And I was on the phone, I'm not coming to this school, Mom. I don't know what weather's like, but it's not supposed to be like this. And ended up falling in love during the trip. And yeah, made the decision to head out there. No regrets.
I appreciate you for sharing. Miss Lenore, what brought you to Swanee?
Like Amber, I was a bridge baby. So I did the bridge program the summer before my senior year. But honestly, my older sister, we're 13 months apart. So she came to Swanee. So my senior year, got to come to Swanee and hang out with her and meet her friends and live their college life. So it was a done deal. I applied and got accepted, early decision. I was like, this is where I'm going. It felt like a second home to me. So it wasn't a hard decision. I think I only applied to 2 schools because I was like, why? What's the point?
Out of curiosity, what was the other school?
Wesleyan, and it was all girls. So no, I'm not doing that. Where they do that at? But my daddy said that I couldn't go to UGA because he was like, you'll get distracted, da, 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 da. And so I was like, well, if I can't go to a big school and wild out and probably flunk out, then I might as well, go somewhere that feels like home.
Respect. Likewise. Mr. DeAndre.
Okay, yes. So when I was in high school, originally I'm from Houston, so I will definitely, I saw your information, and we're definitely gonna have to meet up at some point. But basically, growing up in Houston, it was, at least back then, it was ugly and it was flat, and I was intent on going somewhere else. And so I basically looked for what would be the opposite. Perhaps a mountain where it snows. So there was a college fair at school, and the admissions lady from Sewanee was one of the nicest people I'd ever met. And we talked for a while. I went through all the information. I was intrigued by the number of post-baccalaureate fellowships and whatnot they got. Ended up doing a Watson, but back then I was looking mostly, Sewanee has a really high Rhodes scholarship rate, and so that was something that was really intriguing. And yeah, just getting in. Ultimately, once I got there, having the French department kind of take me in, working with Professor Poe on my thesis, and really just sort of being guided in a way that allowed me to fulfill sort of what I felt like my ultimate goals were, which is to work in the area of language, particularly with endangered languages around the world. And so that's kind of ultimately what my Swanee story, I guess, what led me here. And yeah, it's always been a special part of my life.
I appreciate you for sharing, DeAndre. Thank you, man. And yeah, we got to meet up at some point. Mr. David Johnson.
Yeah, so I think what piqued my interest into Swanee was, their admissions materials. They are so beautiful, like overly beautiful, like to the point where it's just like, dang, is this even a school, or is this like a Southern Living magazine that I'm looking at? It's just so, I guess, so much to take in. So whenever I would see admissions counselors, I'm like, oh, you're the people from the Southern Living type school, or you're the people in the mountains, yada yada yada. So that's how I first was introduced to Swanee. But then I would have to say that I have the best admissions counselor recruiter, who's also my fraternity brother, Curtis Johnson, class of 14. I was able to sit down with him when he came to my high school, and he just broke down everything that I would be able to do when I was there. And we had similar interests in terms of, being academically oriented, but also wanting to take part of different social activities. And, I was able to play basketball. I was able to still do internships, and I was still able to study abroad, which is all things that meant something to me when I was picking my colleges. So when he broke that down to me, it was really no other choice when picking my college destination. So that's how I ended up here.
That's what's up. Curtis is one of a kind, man. So yeah, we appreciate him. Mr. Tremaine Polk, share with us your experience, sir.
So you ready for that? You want us to be real, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I knew what you was going to say, Fred. So the answer is sports. So I was recruited to play football. I played football and baseball. And kind of the adage or the joke is, once I came to the mountain, I never left. So my memory is, I never forget my recruiting trip on the way up there. I had family from Tennessee. I grew up my entire life in Florida. We would travel to Tennessee. So Tennessee was very fun because that's where my father's side of the family lived. So coming up the mountain, we got about halfway up the mountain, and the snow thing, which is a theme that we've been saying, was there. So ironically enough, my recruiting weekend was the worst snow that they had in like 4 or 5 years. So it was like, and all of y'all have been there, y'all can imagine, it was a lot. And it was, here I am, Florida boy, coming up. So my recruiting weekend was great, hosted by Mike Stanley. And, that was the first college visit I took. So that was the standard for me. So as I took other college visits, they just never lived up. So, it felt like home, like Lenore said. And the adage is, once I got there, I never left. I stayed there through the summers, did, summer schools, summer internships, did all kinds of stuff. Susan just asked a little bit about my experience. So it was a pretty full one. So I played both football and baseball there. I was in the Order of Gownsmen. I was a double major for history and religion. I was a proctor. I was a lead proctor. One of the founding fathers of GSP, study abroad, the whole gamut. So I really, tried to take advantage of Wellington Society, try to take advantage of everything that it offered. And I'm very thankful and grateful, which we can talk a little bit about later, for that. So.
Appreciate you, man. Mr. Kevin.
Well, for me, my experience, I think I had the best recruiter, period. I'm from Anniston, Alabama, so the Honorable Judge Nathaniel Lawrence is a family friend, and he talked to my parents. I looked at a couple of different places, Alabama, talked about going out west. I came kicking and screaming, but once I got here, the experience was just incredible. I was a 17-year-old senior, right? I was going to major in beer and girls. So they said, no, you're going to Swanee. You're academically where you need to be, but you need a little more maturity. So I met some amazing people, Marshall, Dr. Samuel Satcher, of course, Mr. Benjamin, just great influences. Green Ribbon Society, studied abroad, played football, proctor. I can't think of everything else, but it was an amazing experience.
So on the kicking and the screaming part, what was all that about?
The weekend I came up, it was like cold and rainy. And now we're talking 1983. There's not a lot of people that look like me. So I'm thinking, how's this going to work? But where I was challenged is, how are you going to succeed in this world? That's what my parents said to you. Even if you don't have any mental barriers, this will show you if you have them and get rid of any inclinations you may have. So if you're a competitor, which I still am, this will allow you to compete with the best. And that's why I came here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. Jamel.
Yep. So I grew up in the Nashville area, not too far from Swanee. And although I'm not Episcopal, someone at my church told me about Swanee, and I took a trip up there. My brother actually was a student at Chattanooga. So on the way back home one time from Chattanooga, we stopped in Swanee. I instantly fell in love, knew it was the place I was going to end up going. And when I got there, I just wasn't disappointed. I was a Spanish major, loved it, every minute of it. Dr. Natal at the time, basically, I majored in her. She was an incredible mentor for me. I played tennis while I was there, enjoyed that immensely. I was on the honor council for 2 years, and I was the chair my senior year, and was in Lambda Chi Alpha. Really enjoyed my experiences there, learned a lot, and gosh, wouldn't trade it for anything.
Appreciate you, man. Ms. Hardy.
So the way that I found Swanee was a lot like the ways that other people found Swanee through their admission counselor. I remember walking down the hallway in my high school here in Memphis, and a counselor popped out of the office and said, "Hey, do you want to learn about this place called Swanee?" I'd never heard of it. And I didn't really want to go to class that day. So let's go and hear about Swanee. And that's just real. And so I went in to hear about the school. And at the end of the presentation, it was Jason Hamilton. At the end of that presentation, he asked if we wanted to come for a visit. Sure, let's sign up for a visit. We hopped on a van, and Becca Peak did drive that van from Memphis to Swanee to bring us to the campus. And coming to Swanee, it was like a place I had never been before. And it was a beautiful experience and a beautiful campus. And I came back home and I told my mom, everyone's just so nice. I don't know what it is, but everyone just seems so nice. And she definitely convinced me that they were only being nice because they wanted to recruit me. But when she finally got a chance to see the school, she really understood that the community that was there was real. And I really appreciate the opportunities I had at Swanee. I ended up being a religion major. It took some time to find that, and I never knew that was something I wanted to actually study until I was in that department. And it was exciting to learn about people and how they believe and how they don't believe. And I use that daily as I'm talking with students and helping them trying to find what they're going to do with their lives. But other things I was involved with at Swanee, I was a part of African American Alliance, and that was something that I spent a lot of my time doing. But most people know me as being a part of the Arcadian program. and mostly begging people to host people overnight and helping us recruit more students to come to Swanee. And so it's no secret that I ended up working at Swanee to help recruit other students to come there because it was something that I believed, and I believed there could be more people that looked like me on the campus. And so that was really, really important to me. And I cannot forget that in my senior year, I did join PST. I cannot forget that and leave that off the list. So it was definitely a great experience.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you for sharing it. Dr. Jenkins.
So I had the best recruiter because it was Mr. Benjamin and Cassandra and several other people that wanted me there. And the way I found out about Swanny was when I was in high school. I was a freshman in high school. They started the Sewanee Scholars Program. It only lasted for a few years, but I started coming to Sewanee when I was about 14 years old. And so I would come every summer, and then by the time I needed to choose a college, Sewanee was on my list, but I was like, it's too close to home and I should go farther away and all these other things. But Sewanee felt comfortable, Sewanee was good, and the financial aid package I received was out of this world. And so that's why I went to Sewanee. And while I was there, I was the African American Alliance president. I was there the year we changed the name from the Black Student Union to the African American Alliance. And then I think the students recently changed it to something else again, but you know, whatever, we are who we are. I was in the Order of the Gownsmen. I was a proctor at the hospital. It was at Hodgson. I was a proctor there. I never got to see any ghosts, but you know, oh well. And I did several other things. I think one of the things that stood out most to me about Sewanee is that I grew up a nice Southern Baptist girl in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Sewanee was my first exposure to a non-Baptist church and also white church. And just the difference between going to a nice Baptist church on Sunday and the Episcopal service that was only 60 minutes long, but felt like eternity, was just amazing to me. So that was just some of the, no shade, that was just something that was really interesting and amazing to me that I've always taken with me. And another thing that Swanny really helped me with was, I knew about race before I got to Swanny, but Swanny taught me about race in class. And that was something that was a whole new experience that I never seen before, was wealth. I came from a nice middle-class family, middle-class friends, diverse high school. But Sewanee introduced me to children driving cars more expensive than my parents as freshmen, who, you know, wrecked them and got another one the next weekend. So that was a very horizon broadening experience in total.
I think I remember somebody arriving to school, not to campus, but like in the area in a helicopter, and then being driven up to school my freshman year. So yeah, that was also as well. We had a similar experience. Mr. Underwood.
I, like Mr. Polk, came and played at the university, at the University of the South. You know, you've got Ohio State calling themselves the Ohio State University, whatever. We are the University of the South. Came up, as far as I know, I'm the first chocolate fellow to take a snap from under center at our prestigious university, which is kind of a big thing for me. You know, I knew I wasn't going pro, but to go there and to fight the stigma of we're not smart enough to play quarterback at the time, which we're still fighting on some levels today, even in the NFL, you know, was big for me, especially to have my friends, my white friends, come watch me play and sit in the stands and say, man, there were these two white ladies there with purple hair, and when you threw the ball, they were like, oh my goodness, Buffy, look at the little black boy. He threw such a great pass. And I was like, really, dude? It's football. It is what it is. Anyway, so I get there because there's a dentist from my hometown that had gone to Swanee and was like, look, if you go there, you write your ticket anywhere you want to go. You're a young Black guy.
I think Mr. Underwood paused for a quick commercial break.
And I like half of my income. One of us made the med school and actually finished. There was, I see internet connection unstable. Can y'all hear me?
Can hear you now. You good to go.
Okay. I'm dropping nuggets and dimes. I don't know how much you missed, but anyway. So anyway, about half of my freshman class, we were like all pre-med. One of us made it. About 4 of us made it through grad school. But at the time, they had like a 96% acceptance rate in the med school, like a 97% acceptance rate in the law school. And I was like, none of those kids probably look like me. So it's probably be 100% acceptance rate if I can get through the program and still want to go. And it was, you know, I don't know if this was planned or if anybody's that smart, but when the football team brought me up, they brought me up on a minority perspective weekend. So I didn't get a real true feel of what it looked like on campus. And so, but because I'd been up before, by the time I got to Minority Perspective Weekend, I knew to bring my blue blazer and my khakis. So the Minority Perspective Weekend kids thought I already went to school there. Got them. Anyway, so anyway, I get there, you know, I do my thug thizzle. I was on, you know, I was captain of the football team, captain of the track team. I was in the old school Black student, was it BSU, Black Student Union or Black Student Association. Then we moved to AAA. I was a psychology major. Because of my connects from Swanee, I actually got grad school paid for, went to Ohio, went to grad school. Actually, one of my football coaches ended up at his alma mater in Ohio, went sight unseen, because back then, Kevin, as you well know, everybody didn't have computers back then. You know, everybody didn't have one of these back then, you know? So I went sight unseen to grad school. Mom packed up a U-Haul and I went up the road. You know, we talk about the people being nice. I just remember driving on campus and being from rural North Alabama. And after you saw the Swanee Inn and you saw the hospital, let's keep it 100. The next thing of interest that you saw was the rebel flag in front of the KA house. I literally pulled over on University and I had to have a talk with Jesus and myself. Because I didn't know if I wanted to go do this. I was like, this is the first thing they're showing me. It's already called the University of the South, but this is the first thing I see when I drive on this rebel flag. I already know what that means, and it's not heritage. I know what that means for me. So after, you know, after some prayer and deliberation, I realized that in order for me to get my gas reimbursement check, I needed to go on to the football office. Let's keep it 100.
Yes, sir. You got to. Please, let's do it. Quick commercial break. Mr. Underwood got a lot of endorsements. I apologize to the audience. He's back now.
All right, I'm sorry. Anyway, that was my wow moment in Swanee. I don't know how much y'all missed. I'm sorry. We got to get together after COVID's over, and so we can sit down and chop it up.
I appreciate you, Mr. Underwood. So I will swing back. If you have comments about what you did while you were at Swanee and you didn't get to share those comments, you can do so now. And Ms. Amber, I'll start with you because I saw your comment in the chat.
Okay. It's so nice hearing all of you all talk. Can you give me, you remind me of stuff that happened. It's hard going first on these questions. But while at Swanee, I also had a really full experience. I was able to be an assistant proctor, and I was an econ major and a international studies major with the focus on French. And I have to like hold myself back from speaking to DeAndre and Sharita in French. But I was able to study abroad. That's how I met my husband. I was able to take full advantage of career services, and that's how I got the job I still have today. That's the job I got through the career services site coming out of Swanee after my Fulbright, actually. So I got to do a Fulbright While at Swanee and the year after, I lived on 4 different continents. I did a summer in West Africa. I did a summer as a Beacon Scholar at Dartmouth. I got to lead a trip to New Orleans. I was an intern with All Saints Chapel, and who said it? They do get out quick. They do get out quick. Was it Felicia? Yeah, that was definitely a different experience. But I love All Saints Chapel. Sometimes I would just go sit there and just think, because the chapel used to always be open. I don't know if it's still always open, but I got to co-lead Sewanee Praise Gospel Choir. I think they're still going with Barbara Banks' support and Mr. Benjamin. I could like name drop, like, I feel like all of them recruited me with a whole bunch of more people too. But I was really active in like housing Swanee, and I just had a really full experience. And that's one thing that I would like to tell people, if students who are still there, like, take advantage of everything, every opportunity that Swanee offers you, everything, because like when I was growing up, my family, we didn't have a lot of money. My parents loved me tremendously and did their very best for me. My mom was a single mom, 4 kids, and my dad did his very, very best to support us, but they didn't have that financial backing. But when I got to Swanee, like, I could just soar. Like, as high as the cross is and as beautiful and as top as the mountain is, I was at the top of the mountain foremost. And because of many of the things you all talked about, especially the ones who came before me, how you all paved the way. But I just wanted to encourage everybody, take advantage of everything. I did a Tonya. There's a scholarship you can get as a rising junior. I was a Isabel Caldwell Marks Scholar. I mean, of course, Gownsman and all that, but just take advantage of every dollar, every dollar. I did summer school, full scholarship. Just take advantage of that money and represent well, you know, wherever they send you, wherever you go. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Ms. Amber. And so we've heard about your experience and how you got to Swanee. And so now we're gonna shift gears a little bit and head to where you are now and how you got down this career path that you are now all going down. And so everybody has their individual journey, and we're going to start and learn. We'll start with Dr. Jamel.
All right. So as I mentioned, I'm a pediatrician in Louisville, Kentucky. Path for me was going from Sewanee. So I mentioned I was a Spanish major, but also completed the pre-med sequence. Went off to Wake Forest for medical school, finished there, and did residency in Augusta, Georgia in pediatrics. I knew pretty quickly in medical school that pediatrics was the way for me. I just loved working with kids. The medicine made sense to me a little bit more than adult medicine did. It was just the right fit. So did my residency and started working. I got a job in Nashville. And so I moved back to Nashville. As I mentioned, that's the area I'm from. And I spent 5 years in a company there. The really cool thing for me there was that I worked in an area of Nashville that had a large Spanish-speaking population. So I got to meld a part of my life at Sewanee that I really didn't know was going to be a part of my professional life. So at that time, probably 70 to 80% of my day was in Spanish, and it was incredible. It was just fascinating. The people were awesome. They were grateful that there was a group of us that was providing care in Spanish. And so it was an incredible time. I learned a lot. I ended up moving on from that job, from that position about 4.5 years ago, and coming to my current position at Norton in Louisville, Kentucky. It's been a really good experience as well. So what I didn't know before I got here is that Louisville, Kentucky has a large Cuban immigrant population. Did not know that. So I have been able to grow again a Spanish-speaking panel of patients, which has been incredible. So again, Sewanee's just given back to my career in ways that I would have never guessed. And so while I have to learn sort of a little bit different vocabulary and different grammar and things like that, it's been really a lot of fun. So, the sky's really the limit on what you can get out of your Sewanee education. Don't be boxed in by traditional routes to do things. There's so much you can do here. So yeah, enjoy yourself. Make sure you pick something you want to study, and other things will really fall into place.
Appreciate that perspective, Jamel. I will pass it to Dr. Roque.
Yeah, so after I graduated, I also didn't take the traditional route. I should back up a little bit. I was pre-veterinary at first, but then changed my mind about that. I'm allergic to cats. It's a tragedy, but I love them. And wasn't sure if I wanted to do something more with like international diplomacy, and then ended up deciding that yes, I wanted to do medicine, but didn't do my pre-med sequence all at Swanny. But basically majored in French and Spanish, did international studies focusing on the Francophone world, which I just opened up as a major my senior year. So basically just took a different senior seminar. That was the only difference. But French and Spanish were essentially my majors. I went abroad, did the Fulbright Fellowship studying maternal mortality in Benin. I also did AmeriCorps in Nashville. I was at United Neighborhood Health Services, and I was a case manager for hypertensive patients and OB navigator for Spanish-speaking patients. So there's the Spanish again. And also did programming for middle school girls about healthy choices. And then I went to IU and did post-bac classes. And from there went to Case Western for med school. One of the reasons why I chose Case was because they had an MPH in global health, and I knew I wanted to do global health. And so that was one of the reasons, specifically why I chose Case Western. Yeah, I ended up staying for residency. And again, so many Spanish-speaking patients. I use Spanish almost every day. Even now, I have one clinic that almost all my patients are Spanish-speaking. And I just get super excited when I get a French-speaking one, and we just yeah, me and the patient, we just get excited. And then in terms of family planning, I actually didn't intend to pursue fellowship. I knew I wanted to be an abortion provider. That was when I did my Fulbright Fellowship and was studying maternal mortality. I saw the consequences of what happens when abortion is illegal, and how many women just died. And so because of that, because abortion is going to happen whether or not it's legal, and the real choice is whether or not we make it safe, I knew I was going to be a provider. But coming out of where I did residency, I didn't feel like I had the skill set to perform procedures up to the gestation age that I wanted. And also with fellowship, you get additional training in research techniques and leadership basically as well. And so that's why I decided to pursue fellowship, and that's why I'm here at Hopkins now.
Thank you, Dr. Roque. I appreciate it. And we'll pass the mic to Ms. Macon.
Yeah, so I ended up in Nashville on accident, sort of. I guess being from Little Rock and then ending up in Swanee, I just knew I was gonna go to this huge city, and my now fiance, then boyfriend, was from DC, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to law school in DC because everyone was taking a gap year, but I didn't have money, so that just wasn't gonna work for me. And I went to DC and I hated it because people don't do the passing hello there, and Daryl kept telling me to stop, he was like, don't talk to strangers, Brittany, because I would say hello and they would just look at me. And so DC was knocked out, which also knocked out 4 of the law schools that I applied to. And luckily I applied to Vanderbilt because they said I could do it for free. And so I went to Vanderbilt during their weekend and loved it. I felt that Swanny gave me a lot of great training for Vanderbilt. I knew how to write. I knew how to read and how to really analyze. And I also quickly realized that loans were a thing and that my plan to be a criminal defense attorney wasn't going to work because I cry watching commercials. And so I started reaching out to alums, and I went to maybe 5 different coffees with alums. I was never told no, I was never ignored. I got my job through a Swanny alum, and ended up going to a Christmas party and meeting the recruiters at that law firm, and worked there for 3 years, and just kind of transferred to my new firm where I now still kind of connect with a lot of people. So I will say that something I've realized after graduating, and I've seen it for both myself and for Daryl in his path in nonprofit, is that the Swanny network is so large. And I've never seen a Swanny shirt that I didn't react to. It's just gonna happen. If you're wearing a shirt, you want me to react. So I'm gonna come up to you and we're gonna talk about Swanny. And that's just something that has been great. And it's continued after, Swanny in Nashville and in other cities as well. So I think that that's probably the biggest lesson that I try to pass on to people, is the Swanny network of alumni is different from other schools. Like my friends say we have a cult, and maybe it is a cult, but it's amazing, and it's something that you can use to your advantage, because I've never met an alum that didn't want to help. I know they exist, but I'm assuming they hide because people would judge them. So that's probably been my favorite thing about my post-Swanny life.
Yeah, my girlfriend calls us a cult all the time. Like, she walked in, it's like, oh, cult meeting.
I think they're just haters, honestly. I mean, they had to come up with something to talk about, but whatever. You can call me a cult if you want to. I'm still gonna say hi to you in Kroger.
Thank you for sharing, Miss Brittany. I will pass it to Miss Hardy.
All right. So in my senior year of college, I started applying for a lot of different types of jobs. I mentioned before that I was a religion major, but a lot of my experiences in my summertime was in marketing in different places. And so I started applying for different positions in different areas. And the ones that kept sticking were in admissions. And I would always wonder, why? I don't know why this is sticking. I applied for things in banking, things with counseling, a lot of different things I could possibly do. But the ones that kept sticking were in admissions. And I actually started my career as an admission recruiter at a school called Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois, which is about 3 hours outside of Chicago. And so I started there as an admission counselor. Then I did 2 years in admission counseling, and I actually did a year in residential life. And then I came back to Swanny. And I worked at Swanny for 5 years. While I was at Swanny, I started my master's degree at Northeastern University. So you think of your admission counselor as the person that comes to your high school and is awkwardly sitting at your table in the lunchroom or talking to you in that spaces, but it is an opportunity to see the United States and the world. And so it was a great opportunity to see different places that I was not afforded as a child. So, I mean, it was a great experience for me to learn how to travel and how to plan and how to do those types of things. So working at Swanny and completing my master's degree while there, after that, I actually left Swanny and went to Rice University in Houston. So Houston Tides also worked at Rice University in admissions and did international recruitment for them. After that, I was tapped to come back to Memphis, my hometown, which I said I was never coming back to. Tapped to come back to my Memphis hometown to work at St. George's. And I've been here for 6 years. And just being able to work with students to help them find their place, giving back. And that's one of the reasons why I initially decided to go into admissions and decided to come back to Swanny, because I wanted to give back to the place that gave so much to me. Because like so many people on the screen, it was a world that I have never experienced before. And now that I get a chance to work with students and see their excitement about finding their right fit and finding the place that makes them excited about wearing that t-shirt, wearing that sweatshirt, putting that bumper sticker on their car, it gives me so much joy and it gives me so much excitement to help them every single day, every single year to find those things. What's interesting is that there is a whole network of people who do this and think about education and think about recruitment and think about how to make education equitable and how to find ways to get students connected to the schools that might make them get on a Zoom call like this. And I also get to serve on the Southern Association as on the board of directors to think about those things and think about those recruiters who are coming to those schools, how to encourage them to be stronger and how to encourage them to think about making this a career path instead of a stop on the way to something else. So, I mean, I've enjoyed the things that Swanny has given me. It gave me an opportunity to realize that there is a world outside of what I knew in Memphis. And I'm very appreciative of that. I think that no one can say that they did not learn how to write to leave Swanny. I think that's something that every one of us actually learned. And I think that's something that comes in handy every single year when I write recommendation letters, but also helping students thinking about how they're going to communicate who they are, their story. But I think what I'm thinking about for my next part of my life is I'm thinking about how we can help affect change within the students that look like us. And give them more opportunities to use their voices and how to make change in this world. And so that's how I'm spending a lot of my time also with young people, to give them encouragement and the space and the voice to do the things that they want to do next. So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy. I appreciate you. DeAndre.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm sorry, what was the question for this part? My computer conked out again because I'm having some issues.
Oh, no worries. So tell us about life after Swanee for you, the career path and how you got to where you are today in your role.
Yeah, so, okay, so definitely just, thinking back to Amber's response, like I suggest definitely like taking full advantage of all the opportunities that Swanee has to offer. Because I came from a pretty fairly, I guess, impoverished background, single mom, and that was, I think, particularly difficult in terms of just the financial stability before that. And in some sense, even while at Sewanee in some ways. But what was, I think, sort of a breath of fresh air for me was just just how many opportunities were there to reach your full potential. So I got a chance to study abroad, and I went to Haiti my first year, and then went to Jamaica, went to Canada, ended up studying abroad in France for a semester, studied abroad in Indonesia, and just really had the opportunity to travel, see the world, which was kind of my priority, and use those experiences to understand more about language and how language is used, and ultimately to answer some big questions about human nature. So I think sort of I'm currently also a grad student, as sort of in that vein of linguistics work, my big question is, what is language and where did it come from, evolutionarily speaking? How did we potentially go from one language to the 7,000 languages that we have on Earth today? And a part of sort of answering that question, you have to have a lot of experience in different languages, and getting, you really have to get in it. And so I think, working at Sewanee, having the opportunity to do research with professors, I snagged Professor Engel as my mentor because he was doing interesting things and answering interesting questions about language. And that kind of led to what I did right after Sewanee. I got a Watson Fellowship, and that project was mainly focused on looking at the ethics of language documentation and conservation work in the Asia Pacific area. So I got a chance to visit 15 different countries across South Asia, Southeast Asia, Oceania. Found myself rolling around on cargo ships. Fun story. Just because you want to have sea legs doesn't mean you automatically have sea legs. I was on the island of Fate in Vanuatu, and I decided I was going to catch a cargo ship to this other island that had a really cool volcano, and they had some interesting things going on with language there. Over 130 languages in just one country. And I get onto the ship, I'm on the deck, because it's a Watson Fellowship, which was awesome, but the money has to last the whole year, so I was sleeping on the deck. Wonderful. Milky Way, I'm seeing the Milky Way, I'm on this boat, I'm like, yes, everything is great. 45 minutes later, I am heaving out my entire life. And I don't know what exactly I was thinking, because most folks will know, okay, like if this is your first time on a boat, you need to take some seasickness pills and do, but for some reason, I thought that I could naturally just do this. Well, needless to say, like I suffered endlessly for probably 12 straight hours. Anyway, that's an aside. Just sort of, I had the opportunity to do the Watson, to have some really cool experiences in the Pacific, the Asia Pacific area, investigating language. Moved to Canada for a little bit to do some work there, and then ultimately moved back to Houston to start teaching French. And that was honestly one of the most, I guess, formative experiences, because it gave me the opportunity to, one, use my actual degree on a daily basis, being able to use French and impart that to students in the way that it had been given to me. I learned French primarily starting in high school, and then that carried on into college. But more importantly, interacting with students of multiple backgrounds, particularly immigrant students, my first few years of teaching, being in Houston, and really getting to see, okay, what the dynamics of language are from an educator's standpoint. And so sort of all those experiences, just sort of being able to work on endangered languages projects in the Pacific, but also teaching in schools where there was a large population of immigrants, particularly many undocumented immigrants, various language backgrounds, and that ultimately came together into some of the graduate work that I'm currently doing, but also the Bloomfield Language Institute, whose whole goal is to combine nonprofit methods of language documentation with social entrepreneurship to document endangered languages and provide resources so that kids can either maintain their languages and learn to acquire other more larger world languages, more lucrative languages, if you will, English, French, Spanish, in the case of where I was currently working in Borneo last year, Indonesian. They can use the resources of their language to acquire these more lucrative languages to change their socioeconomic position in life. So that's kind of ultimately, I guess, sort of what my path has been since Sewanee.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mr. Passport Stamp himself. I'll pass it to Mr. Tremaine Polk.
Hey, so I'll keep it somewhat short for the interest of time, and then I'll address one question that's in the chat. So for me, I'd say relationships. So when I left, like I said, I was on the mountain, for 4 years. Actually, I was on the mountain for 8 years. So after I graduated, I taught at St. Andrew Swanny, which, if you don't know, is the small private Episcopal school right outside the gates that we all pass before we touch the roof. So I built relationships over the summers and went into that arena, which was not what I was expecting when I was at Swanny, but is definitely very much in my strengths. And then when I transitioned back to home, like how I got here is our relationships as well. So, they talked about the Swanny network, truly leveraged that. I knew somebody who worked with a company at the time. He recommended, hey, this was a good opportunity. So I took it. And then, throughout I've been with Verizon for 16 years. So throughout my career, it's been about building relationships. So that's one thing that Swanny teaches you. So one of the questions that's in the chat, so I just want to make sure we address it. So Cyrus Wilson asked, at what year would you recommend going out and getting involved in stuff? Also, what made you choose your majors and how is it related to your degree and jobs? So honestly, I would say as early as possible, but you have to know when it's right for you. Like if I'm being real, I had to learn how to truly study when I came to Swanny. So as a student, I was always academically gifted and honestly never really had to work. So transition to freshman year, I'm in football. We're taking, biology, chemistry, God always has a plan through stuff, but I ended up breaking my ankle, which was the best thing for me because I would not have made it academically because I didn't put structure around myself. So I was always somebody who I never really had to sit down to put structure. Because I was talented, I was able to do that. But so I said, when it's right for you, do it. But I would definitely say as early as you can. get involved, because I think it just opens up so many opportunities for you. If I'm being honest, I chose my majors because I was a double major, but those were the classes I liked the most. So, you know, as I was getting into my sophomore year, I found myself, whether it's the relationships I built with teachers or the content that we were covering in the classes, I felt like, hey, these were really kind of in my zone. So, you know, that's where I landed. I really wasn't, although going into college, I was great with math and science. Getting at Swanny, I realized that that was another level. So I try to stay away from that. But really, you know, going back to the comment about putting structure, you know, the major helped me do that. And really the degree that I have today, transition to my job, like you've got to be disciplined in what you do. You've got to know what's right for you. But you've got to put, you know, certain plans and restrictions in place to make sure that you end up being successful. But to answer your question again, you know, as soon as possible, you know, I regret not getting more involved. I was, you know, I went through my list earlier and I was pretty involved with a lot of stuff. But, you know, now I just reflect on like how many more opportunities did I have, you know, because football and baseball took a lot of my time. You know, what else could I have done? No, I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. But, you know, take advantage of the opportunities in front of you, make sure you have structure and discipline to make sure you're successful. So in the end, it'll all work out the way it's supposed to.
Appreciate you, Tremaine. In the interest of time, I want to hear one more perspective of how did you get to where you are today. I know everybody's perspective is really interesting, but I wanted to get this one in particular before we transition into our last question. And I'm going to throw that to Miss Lenore. How did you get, how has your career path evolved since you left?
Interesting, because I left Sewanee, I was a Spanish major, you know, so I left Sewanee, I was going to go teach the kids. I was going to go, listen, I was going to go be Barbara Banks to high school. I taught at a boarding school. And so I thought I was going to go be Barbara Banks, you know, at the school. I don't know how well that turned out for me. One of my kids is on this season's Married at First Sight, making some really iffy choices. So I don't know how good I did, but that's neither here nor there. So I taught Spanish for 2 years, and then I was like, oh, this ain't for me. I need to go be famous. So I told my department head, I was like, look, if I go be rich and famous this summer, I'm going to New York. If I go be rich and famous, then I'm not coming back. He was like, okay, just tell me by June. And I was like, all right. So I went to New York and I was like, there's no way that I'm ever going back to, I was teaching in Rome, Georgia, like fresh out of college. Like, there's no way I'd come to the city and I'm coming back to Rome. So I quit my job and I was like, I need to be an actress, of course. And after a few years of pursuing that, I was like, oh, I don't really know about this. And I really wasn't using Spanish. I was trying to think like Jamel and Sharita are still using their Spanish. And I'm like, the first movie I ever did, I was speaking in Spanish. So I guess I used my degree. But I think what Swanny taught me, I can't remember who said this, was like relationships. And as a producer, and Jessica, like Jessica mentioned, like we left Sewanee knowing how to write. And so I've been writing my whole life. And I was like, you know, let me see if I can write a show that I've been auditioning for. Cause I was like, these, what y'all sending me ain't that great. So let me see if I can write it. And from that is actually how I kind of fell into screenwriting and telling stories. And it's been kind of what I've been doing for the longest, but I think as far as the production aspect of it, to Tremaine's point, like building a team and networking and having people work together, I really learned that at Swanee by being on being the cheerleader and on Tiger Girls, and I was president of PST and social chair. Like I remember at Sewanee, I felt like I could do anything or I could create anything. Like I wanted to do a Men of Sewanee calendar, Brit. And I wanted to have like this super sexy like launch event. If you bought a calendar, you got to like come and the men of the calendar were there. And like, I just got to create that out of my mind. So there's no way you can tell me in Hollywood or in New York, like I can't just create what I want to create and what I want to see on TV. Especially now with like YouTube and the internet, like I created 2 seasons, I wrote, created, executive produced, like built a team for my show. And like, I guess from that experience, like it's gone on to do really well and get us 3 like daytime Emmy pre-nominations and an international licensing deal. But like, it's because I know how to connect with people. Like PST and Swanny has introduced me to some of the greatest human beings that walk the earth. And these women are my best friends that I get to talk to every single day. And building those relationships and having those connections, like I feel like I can do anything. And so, yeah, like I really do believe that like I can do whatever I want to do. So, and I really credit Swanny for that, because there was nothing, like I studied abroad in Spain, like there was nothing that I couldn't do. And I just take that with me wherever I go. Okay.
I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your perspective and your story. And you are right. You do know some of the best women in the world, because those women are a large part why I'm still alive today. So I can attest.
Me too. So, hey.
And so we are going to shift gears again. We have a lot of students that are on this call. And so in doing them a service, I would like to hear from some folks on what piece of advice would you give students on getting the things that they want out of life, or designing their life to look like how I want it, how they want it, speaking from their perspective. And how has your journey, or like what lessons have you learned along your journey that you can impart on them that'll help them through their experience as they navigate? Because I've heard a couple of themes that a lot of people's journey has been non-linear. You guys talk about being a good teammate. You talked about how vast the network is at Swanee, and you talked about using the resources. So I will throw it to Rosalyn. What is a piece of advice that you can give to the students that are on the call right now?
Sure. So I had to really think about this one. I feel like the answer I would give is a little bit counterintuitive, and it kind of is just based on kind of my background. I'm just, and that comes from being at Sewanee, but just being super curious and being able to interact with so many different folks with so many different backgrounds, and just always, like Lenore said, just feeling like you can do anything. But I would say, if you're the smartest person in any room on a regular basis, try to find a different room. I think that's probably the best advice from my experience of, and what's been fun for me is learning from really smart people who have complementary skill sets, and really challenging myself. And I think when you're a student, it's so important to be the smartest, right? You want to make that A. And I think in life, you don't get that. You need to always be teachable, and always kind of focus on, dude, I don't want to be the smartest person, because that means I'm not growing. That means I'm, some muscles are, atrophying. So just always put yourself around people who know more than you in some areas. That would be my advice.
Appreciate you, Ms. Rosalyn. And I will ask the same question to Mr. Kevin Jones.
Well, for me, it comes down to experience and exposure. What I mean is, at Swanee, I learned right away that I had to be flexible. I was pre-med for 1 semester. How'd that end up working, right? Ended up being an English major with an opportunity to join the CIA or some other sales companies, yet I am selling complex pharmaceuticals, particularly oncology products. How does that happen? So what I would say to you students is, don't limit yourself. And the game is still the same. You got to have the hustle. You've got to find your why, because that's what will get you through anything you face. For me, it's the dream bigger than me. It's my faith, it's my family, it's the people that I know. So whatever your why is, find it, but do not limit yourself to your major. My company just got sold in New York, right across from Bloomingdale's. We took the buyout and we're still rolling. So don't ever limit yourself. in anything you do.
Appreciate you, Mr. Jones. You made a really interesting comment, finding your why. I would suggest to students and panelists and anybody else who's on the call to grab the book, Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh, who's the former recently passed CEO of Zappos, who in 10 years created $1 billion company out of nothing. And he didn't even really want to be there at first. I definitely suggest that book. I will ask the same question also now to Dr. Jenkins. I see she stepped out for a second. Okay. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Okay. I'll come back to you. I was swinging to Mr. David Johnson.
Yeah, so I guess the one piece of advice I can give to current students, especially Black students, is to remember why you're at college. And it's not necessarily to say like, oh, don't get caught up in the distractions of parties and other social activities. But, you know, as Black students, we kind of had to add on another layer to our experience in terms of, you know, helping our community, helping the other fellow Black students with whatever they had going. So like, for example, the Black women on my campus were the therapists. Or like the Black men and women, we were the ones walking students back from parties at night because there were no lights on the streets. You know, we were just doing all of these things that maybe, you know, people who were getting paid by the university, like administration, staff, we were doing the things that they were supposed to be doing. And as I look back on it, I realized that I really didn't have that much time to be just a pure student and give all of my effort to classes and to classwork because I was doing, you know, all of this stuff on the back end, not even like for myself, but just for us, just so we could have a safe place to enjoy the Swanee experience. And I look at my peers who are white, and they didn't really have those same hurdles to leap over because they could just focus on their academics. They could focus on their career. They can focus on being a college student at a predominantly white campus. And, you know, I'm not to say that they shouldn't be able to do that, but I just realized looking back, graduating, going to a graduate school now and being able to solely focus on my academics, I just imagine how much different my experience would be if I didn't have that or feel that I had that obligation to do all of these things and to make sure I was in these spaces at all times, serving on these diversity panels, diversity boards, making sure that somebody Black was running for student government or for honor council. You know, just don't get so caught up into this work that you forget, you know, that you're here to get a degree and to learn and to better yourself for what the future can hold for you. So that's my one piece.
I appreciate that, David. That's really, really interesting perspective, man. And I will ask that question also as well to Kent.
Okay, you know, 3 or 4 things. One, make connections, okay? The people who look like you, who listen to your music, who dress like you guys will eventually end up in the same places before, without even trying. You know, find the people who don't look like you, who you think you may not have anything in common with, but once you get to talking, you may have something in common, but at least you're friends, and who knows down the line, that could be a job opportunity, that could be a letter of reference or a letter of recommendation, you know, and not that you're using that person, but you're just connecting and making those, you know, making those people, bringing those people in your circle. I call it collecting people. Some people collect things. You know, my wife calls it collecting people. I collect people too. You know, I want as many people as I can on my team. I want a choir of people being able to sing my praises. So if somebody ever says something afoul of me, I've got a team of people that are singing in harmony saying no. Okay. 2, find a mentor. Oh my gosh, if I had a mentor when I was you guys' age and even afterward, you know, who knows, you know, but you're young, you know, you just graduated from Swanee or you just got into Swanee, so you think you know everything, you got the, you know, the world by the horns, find a mentor. As Rosalyn was saying, you don't want to always be the smartest cat in the room. You know, one of my mentors said, you need 3 people in your life. Somebody that's smarter than you that you can learn from, somebody that's as smart as you that you can bounce ideas off of, and somebody that you're smarter than that you can help.
Quick commercial break.
Just when he started preaching.
People like that and make sure they're in your life. And the last thing is, when you come out of Swanee, many of you will be broke. Oh, we lost it again. God. All right, can y'all hear me again?
I can hear you. Oh, hold on. We need you to rewind right quick. You said you gave us the first 2 types of people that you need. We need that 3rd type of person that's smarter than.
That 3rd type is the one that you're going to pay it forward to. So that 3rd type is going to be somebody that you're smarter than that you can now help. Okay, so somebody that can help you, somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, and somebody that you can help. And then the last piece of it is, when you come out of Swanee, many of you will be broke. Go to grad school, find a fellowship, stay broke while you're broke. Because just because you get out and if you've got good credit and decide to buy a little starter home or get your little apartment, buy some furniture, get your little car, so what? Guess what? In 2 years, if you decide you want to go back to school, them bills don't stop just because you want to go back to school now. Stay broke while you're broke. Okay? Nobody, I know, okay, let me not speak for everyone. I didn't have it coming out of Swanee. Okay? Went straight to grad school. You know, didn't have it coming out of grad school. Missed on some opportunities coming out of grad school because at that point in time, I was just tired of being broke. You know, had I known and taken another internship here or there, you know, things may have been different. I'm good and I'm still blessed where I am. But had I had a mentor to help me, to remind me, stay broke. You ain't never had anything. You ain't had no money. So what's another year or 2? To see where that goes. So those are my pieces. Those are my nuggets to help you guys. You know, anybody on this panel, and now I'm gonna speak for all of us, would be probably more than happy to help any of you guys in any way that we can, because we all know the struggle. My freshman class had 19 of us, and that was huge at the time. Like, there was like 6 Black people on campus total, and then we came in with 19, so we thought we were running the yard, you know. But those people, those connections I made, I mean, I talk to some of these cats 3-4 times a week still to this day, and we all grown and married. Some of us got grandkids now. But I'm just saying, make those connections, find a mentor, and don't worry about being broke. You got the rest of your life to make money. Take chances, take risks while you're young and beautiful. You know, because when you're old and gray and sexy, you know, you got kids, you got responsibilities. You can't do that. You know, not as much. Let's just keep it 100. I mean, look, don't ask me to be on the panel if you don't want to keep it 100. I'm just saying. Susan, I appreciate your love. Fred, I appreciate you being a moderator. All these other beautiful people on the panel. When this COVID thing is over, hopefully we all get together and sit down.
Pause once more for a commercial break. We're gonna let him
Don't hang out and chill out.
There we go. And I'm gonna pass it to Dr. Felicia.
I do apologize. My manager is here. This is Malcolm X. He's 6, and he runs my life. And I forgot his mini vitamins, Paw Patrol. So I had to handle that. Kent, you need to mute yourself. So since we're keeping it 100, that's what happens at the house when it's past their bedtime. But I'm dedicated to Swanny, so I'm here and letting him run around and watch whatever he's doing upstairs. I don't know. So here's what I would recommend. I agree with everything everybody else has said, especially that go to school while you're still broke, because I made a mistake and I went and I had a full-time job waiting for me when I graduated from Swanee, making a lot of money, like almost $30,000 back in the 1900s. And then I did that for a while, and I was like, you know, I don't really know about this. I think I want to go back to school. And I went back to school, and the money that I had, I didn't have anymore because I was, I had making $8,000 a year, and needing to pay rent and car note and insurance and all of that. So yeah, my tuition was paid for. Thank you, Demon Deacons. Shout out to Wake Forest University. But the bills don't stop. So if you're okay with being broke, be broke a little while longer and get those degrees out the way. Because when you're grown and broke, it's a whole nother, not another, a whole nother level of, wow, what did I do? My other piece of advice would be to remember who you are and find yourself. So when I was in undergrad and when I was in grad school, I struggled a lot with depression and I had semi-imposter syndrome. So it was like imposter syndrome, like I don't belong here. But then I would listen to the legacy speak, no offense to the legacies, but I was like, I do belong here because I'm smarter than you. And you're here because of your daddy, and I'm here because of my grades and Grace and Mr. Benjamin and these other people who love and support me. So it wasn't true imposter syndrome because I knew that I deserved to be there just as much as everybody else, but I was still struggling with some stuff I hadn't dealt with in my personal life. And so what grad school did for me was help me deal with all those things that I hadn't dealt with. And what I have learned, I do have gray hairs, you just gotta look real close to see them, and my sageness and wisdom self, what I have learned is that you still have to find that small, still voice inside of yourself that will help lead and guide you to where you're supposed to go. So I'm still in the process of doing that now. Life is constantly changing. New things are always happening. You really don't know what the next day will bring. You just kind of have to be flexible and learn to go with the flow. And if you are struggling with mental health illness, get that stuff checked out, get you a nice therapist. As a psychologist who doesn't see patients, but looks at, community issues, as a Black woman who was raised in the church and thought everything could be solved with some oil on the forehead, extra virgin, and some prayers to Jesus, you can still do that and also get you a therapist. Okay, so those, and do it while it's on your parents' insurance plan as well, because then it's much cheaper, because therapy can be expensive. But make sure that you're taking care of your mental health as well. And then one thing that Swanny brought me was my group of friends. And Kent is one of my friends from the 1900s, and we still talk all the time. Nikki Hamilton is one of my friends from the 1900s. We still talk all the time. The connection is strong. And it's so strong that through these people that I went to Sewanee with, I've been able to meet you all, most of you all as well. So your faces aren't new to me. And that's just a beautiful thing that I don't feel like a lot of other students have at other colleges. So once again, take care of your mental health. Reach out to people to get reach out to me if you want to, because I can delegate and send you on to somebody else and say, hey, talk to this person, they'll help you out. Do all of those things and just trust in the relationships that you have now and find that still small voice in yourself that will help lead you and guide you.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. I appreciate you. And I know we can keep moving and ask questions and talk all night, but in the interest of time, I would like to open the floor for at least a few questions if we have any. If not, then I can circle back around to our panelists and ask them some more follow-up questions, but we'll open it up to the audience. Susan, if we have any questions.
Yeah, I'm looking through the chat and the questions, and I don't see any that we have not already answered from people. I just am enjoying this so much, and I feel like it's been 5 minutes instead of an hour and a half, and I think that we can probably make this maybe a regular thing going forward after this 55 years celebration. It's just been really good to hear all these stories, and I appreciate the panelists so much. And we didn't identify which ones were the first or one of the first, but we had a Distinguished Young Alumnus Award winner. We had a couple Watson Fellows. We had the Fulbright Scholars. We had the Algernon Sidney Sullivan Award winner. It's just an awesome group, and you guys have shared not just awesome advice, but really good, generous time with everybody tonight. So I really appreciate it. And Fred, I don't know, I think we could probably wrap up, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that we will continue the celebration of 55 years next Thursday with a presentation by the Roberson Project on slavery, race, and reconciliation. And that should be really interesting. So we'll see everybody back here then. But Fred, I'm going to turn it over to you. You've been an awesome host, great moderator. Thank you for all you've done.
I appreciate you and everybody else for trusting me with the microphone in front of my face. Y'all still ain't learned your lesson yet, and I appreciate it. Truly, I do. But no, thank you all for being, like Susan said, so generous with your time and so open and honest. Looking at you, Mr. Wood, Mr. King, and sharing your stories with us. And I really do hope that we continue this, and I hope that it's an ongoing conversation that we get to move forward. But yes, ma'am, we can close it out if you so please.
Great. Thanks everybody for being here. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
God bless.